Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Central Valley of California. Fresno, to be exact, the heart of the Central Valley, the heart of California. From the Central Valley to the world, through the wonders of the internet. I'm glad to be here today. It is a great day. Of course, it always is a great day when you claim that right from the start. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to roll out exactly the way you want, but no matter how it rolls out, you can make the best of all that is, and that's what I'm talking about. Now, I'm going to talk about, last couple weeks I was talking about an article in the Living the Science of Mind, and I came across something that's also in Living the Science of Mind on page 239 if you happen to have a copy, and it's entitled How to Create a Spiritual Chain Reaction. And we're going to get into that, but before we get into that, one of the things that I've talked about, and I talk about this a lot, but we talk about our beliefs, and there's so much about beliefs and how they affect our experience with what we call our reality, and there's a lot of good information that's in the neuroscience field about how it's not the particular event, but it's our beliefs about the event is what determines our experience of reality, and that is so true. So what brought this to mind is I was talking to somebody early this morning, and we were talking about beliefs, and we were talking about their particular beliefs, and they were questioning me about some things, and I noticed that as I began to interact, have this dialogue with them, that there was a certain level of resistance that came up within them. And this is something we need to understand. When we come to a point in our lives where we decide to create a better life for ourselves, when we come to a realization that we are a spiritual being in a spiritual universe having a physical expression, and that our experience of that physical expression so much is determined by our beliefs, and how so embedded our beliefs are within our mind, often at a level that we're not aware of. And when we seek to begin to make changes in our lives, oftentimes our beliefs, almost as if they are an inner entity, if you will, they kind of work to oppose us, is about the simplest way I can think to express this. We've talked about this, and I'll probably take a whole show one day and talk about it, but just I want you to realize as we open the show today, and if you are working on creating your life, creating a better life, if you're new to New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, or if you've been in Science of Mind and Spirit for a long time, and you find that you're working with issues that you just can't seem to work your way through, take heart, okay? There are solutions, and the solutions are to be found within us, and that's where we need to go. It's not what's going on outside of us. It's not that people don't understand us. Our rational mind is very adept at giving us all the reasons why, and you can fill in the blanks, but it's not about reasons why. It's about our beliefs. It's about what's going on within ourselves. So before I actually get into how to create a spiritual chain reaction, I want to read something to you out of the Science of Mind. It's in the introductory chapters. On page 34, Holmes says, "There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. It reacts to us according to our belief in it. And it is an immutable law subject to the use of the least among us. No respecter of persons, it cannot be bound. Our soul will never change or violate its own nature. All the denying of it will never change it, and all the affirming of it will never make it any more than it is. But since it is what it is and works in the way that it works, it appears to each through his or her belief. It is done unto each one of us as we believe." And boy, that just is the bottom line. It's as we're experiencing life at the level of our belief. So, are you experiencing a life today of harmony, peace, and just everything's going according to the way that you want? If you are, congratulations. There's a lot of people out in the world that aren't. All you have to do is pick up the newspaper, listen to the news on the radio, catch it on TV or whatever. I highly recommend that, particularly if you're really serious about working on your spiritual quest and journey in the early days in particular, that you might want to turn off the news. You might want to turn off things that are going to feed you stuff that is not necessarily what you need at this point in your life. Having said that, let's talk about this idea of a spiritual chain reaction, because this is near and dear to my heart. I spoke a little bit about it last week, and I've spoken about it from time to time. Ernest Holmes believed that when there was enough people in the world that believed in an infinite presence principle, that it would change the world. And there's more to it, and we'll cover that. But I want to start here. And he says, no one lives entirely by himself. We are all individual parts of humanity, and whether or not we realize it, each is influencing those around him, and each in his turn is being influenced by others. No doubt, the thoughts and opinions and actions of the whole world finally are based on what everyone thinks and believes. Now, understanding that Holmes wrote at a time where, he uses the male pronouns, but we're talking about everybody, right? So if I don't remember to regender it as I'm speaking, just bear with me. Understand that for each and every one of us, we are connected on some level. There is a oneness, but it's only experienced when we begin to believe that there's a oneness. It's done unto us as we believe. What's exciting about this, and I'm going to go through this today, hopefully I'll get through all of it. He says, since the explosion of the atomic bomb, we read a great deal about the possibility of physical chain reactions. And I'm not going to go through these couple of paragraphs when he talks about it. Basically, what he's talking about is energy, how chain reactions take place, and how through chain reactions this energy manifests and demonstrates through a wider, larger area and can be potentially very powerful, okay? Well, imagine, if you will, that thought is also energy. Imagine also that if we are truly connected in a oneness, that if the divine is all that is, that no matter who we are, where we are, what we're doing, we are still the divine principle. We are still God, Spirit, expressing not only as us, but expressing through us and into our life experience. Now, God expresses through us into our life experience at the level of our belief. And so if we believe in little, then life gives us little. If we believe in a lot, life gives us a lot. Life being the divine itself, that when we were created, everything that we could need, want, and desire in order to express our life maximally. Imagine, expressing your life maximally is available to you in potential. Our spiritual journey, if you will, is the discovery of that, discovery of the tools that we need to put those potentials into practice in our life and to see them expressed. Nobody is created identical to anybody else. So each of us come into the world with our own specific, individual potential talents and desires and wants. And the wonderful thing about this is when we align ourselves with the divine principle, if you will, in consciousness and in beingness, and open ourselves up, we begin to see it play out in our lives. Our purpose, if you will, in this life is to live our life maximally with all that God has given us and potentially has available to us in expressing that. It gets pretty exciting, but it's only as exciting as we choose to make it for ourselves. I want to go back to this idea of creating this chain reaction, spiritual chain reaction. He says, we happen to know of another kind of energy, now moving on from atomic energy, which we feel is even more important than the physical energy created through an explosion of the atom. He says, and this energy is an energy of faith, of affirmative prayer and spiritual meditation. There is no reason to doubt that in the field of spiritual consciousness, a chain reaction could be created which would bless the whole world. And since the world finally acts in the way that it thinks, should a majority of people come to believe in a spiritual power and the benefits that can be obtained from it, they would all have a great desire to try a new kind of experiment, one which would bless the entire course of humanity. Think about all the stuff that's going on in the world today. Well, there's a lot of stuff. All right, forget stuff in the world. Think about the stuff that's going on in your family. Well, forget that. What's going on in your life today? Is your life really filled out with everything that you want to see happen? Are you in harmony with what's going on? Are you seeing things demonstrate in your life that bless you in so many ways? Or are you looking out in life and seeing a lot of lack and limitation in your personal life? I'm not talking about anything outside of just you. Where are you at today? And the importance of this and the importance of understanding this comes to the very core of what we're talking about with this idea of a spiritual chain reaction. So we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to pick it up there, and I'll see you when we get back. Contact David Sprinkle at Century 21 Denton Realty to buy this beautiful home in Yosemite Lakes Park. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and over 2,900 square feet. Dave can help you with your real estate needs in Fresno, Madera, and Mariposa counties and surrounding areas. When you need a realtor, call Dave Sprinkle at 559-285-9785.
Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at condiopress.com and as ebooks at amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at godsinspirationsblog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today. Protect yourself by letting private investigator Michael Morgan Clark get the facts you need in matters of infidelity and divorce, corporate investigations, criminal defense, workers' comp, child parental abduction, wrongfully accused. Michael Morgan Clark will investigate anyone. Call 559-785-1900 or visit clarkinvestigations.com. At Laulea Travels, we strive to make your vacation experience as relaxing as possible. From the time you start dreaming about it to the time you're sharing your vacation photos with your friends and coworkers. Our vow is to treat your vacation as if it were our own. If personal service, attention to detail, and years of travel experience are important to you, then let Laulea Travels plan your next dream vacation. Visit lauleatravels.com or call 559-360-1933.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, from the Central Valley of California. Anyway, we're talking about creating a spiritual chain reaction. And I introduced Holmes's idea, remembering that he wrote in the 50s, and well, much before that, but a lot of this was written in the 40s and 50s, and nuclear power was very, very prominent and a very exciting and very fearful thing at that time. But the idea of a chain reaction, atomic chain reaction, and he said, okay, if we can have atomic chain reaction, and that's energy, we could also have a spiritual chain reaction, because that's also an energy of sorts. It's spiritual energy. So we talked about that a little bit, and now he brings a more personal example, if you will. And what he says here is, he says, did you ever notice the contagion of a happy person, the one who has an enthusiastic joy for living? Or he goes on to say, have you ever wondered or noticed the effect that a calm, poised person can have on others? And I'm not going to go through this word for word, but you get the idea. Have you ever walked into a room and maybe you've been a little down or, just distracted, and the room's full of joyous people, and you pick it up without even participating? It's just the energy begins to, you get it, you pick it up. There is a connectedness there that you can't deny. Have you ever been fearful and worried and come into the presence of whether it's someone that's calm and that's at peace, maybe a spiritual partner, maybe just an individual that just is seemingly, we call them like being well grounded, and you notice that maybe you still in the back of your mind have that little fear feeling or worry, but it's like, yeah, and you can feel that. And that's what he's talking about, from one individual to another. And it's important that we take note of these things in our life, because there's substance behind the experience that we're experiencing. He says one of the most remarkable evidences of how this silent spiritual force works was exhibited in the life of the late Mahatma Gandhi. He says, as he sat quietly before perhaps millions of people, in these great public meetings, a combined atmosphere of confidence and faith was created, something that they call darshan, which means the united spiritual force of a great magnitude of people. I referenced Gandhi, I think, in our talk last week, and I do from time to time, and Dr. Martin Luther King. These individuals, they had within themselves a presence, a spiritual presence. Although they come from vastly different spiritual backgrounds, if you will, the presence that they had was still the same. And the thing is, and the truth is, we can find that within each and every one of us, within ourselves. We are powerful spiritual beings that most of the time we don't give ourselves credit for being, but in truth we are. That as we express in our life, if we're caught up in the day-to-day chaos, if we're caught up in getting the kids out the door or whatever's going on, work or whatever, or the news, and we let our mind get distracted in all those areas, it's like we give up power when we do that. And we don't think about it, but the power that we're giving up is the power, the divine power that exists within each and every one of us to be more whole, more complete in our physical life expression, more harmonious, more at peace, more happy, if you will. And aren't these things that most every one of us want to experience in our day-to-day life? And yet, we fail to take the time to do the things that will create more of that in our life experience. This comes down to this idea of what we believe, which is why I kind of opened up with this idea of belief. When we're working through our day-to-day life experience, and we just can't quite seem to get it together, oftentimes we need to wind it back to what it is that we believe. And oftentimes what we think we believe may be in opposition to what we hold as a deeper belief on a subjective level. We begin to work through this. We want to create a better world. I don't think anybody wants to live in a world that's not a better world. Now, we may not all define that exactly the same way, but if we can get past our rational mind and our personal definitions and open ourselves up to an idea of goodness and oneness, then when we begin to look at creating a better world, it takes on a more harmonious aura, if you will. This is what Holmes was talking about, this idea of everybody opening up to an understanding of a greater good and a greater God. Now, we don't have to get into how a particular group of people define God, okay? If we all believe that there's God, well, those that believe in God, there's those that don't, but if we all believe that there's God, it doesn't matter whether my definition meets with your definition. We don't have to go there. I don't have to be correct and you incorrect. It's not about that. It's about accepting that there's this creative force. Okay, I think everybody that believes in God can get to that one point, that there's a creative force in the universe. And how we define that, then, within ourselves, if we seek within that definition to see a greater good, and I want to tread kind of carefully here, because greater good is important, but greater good in one particular field or another is not that important. Just a greater good, okay? We are connected, whether we want to recognize it or not, through the mere fact that we were created by the divine infinite. We call it God. Now, you can say that there's God and then there's God's creation. Okay, that's fine. You can say there's God and all that's created is God expressing, and that's fine also. Either way, God's in the mix, okay? We seek to experience and express a greater good, a greater God in our life. We create that. But we create it within ourselves. We don't go out to the world when we have our own baggage, so to speak, and tell the world how it's got to act when we can't quite get it together for ourselves. And yet we want to do that. It's inherent in human nature, isn't it, that I know better, I know best, I read this and I know, but when I begin to look in the mirror of my own life experience, maybe I'm not seeing that which I want to see expressed in the world. And this is what Holmes was talking about, this whole idea. He says, we know that the power that does good, that it's a power of life, of love, of truth, of beauty, and peace. It's not only a power, it is the final power in the universe, because it is God. It is God. God's present everywhere and in all people. For just as there is an energy caught from the universe and locked in the physical atom that can be loosed, so there is a spiritual energy caught in every person's mind and locked up in that individual life, waiting to be used. Imagine, with all the people in the world, all that energy, that spiritual energy, and it's there. All you have to do is quiet yourself, sit, and just spend a little time in inner contemplation. You begin to, you get a feeling, if you will. And it's awesome. He says, faith and conviction are the instruments through which this energy is used. And just as in physical science, natural energy is hooked up to run, as in physical science, natural energy is hooked up to run a machine or a streetcar, or, boy, streetcar, that goes back a few years, doesn't it? You may not remember streetcars, but I do. So anyway, it's a little dated, but it's used to create light and good. He says, there's a spiritual power that is within each of us to heal, to bless, and to prosper those of whom we think. One of the things that, as we begin to create a better life for ourselves, it's very important that we understand that we create a better life for ourselves as we create a better life for those around us. It's an awesome thing when we're seeking and we're seeing life demonstrated for us in a greater way, but we're also seeing it demonstrate in those around us. And as we urge that on, it comes back to bless us. As we give, so shall we receive. It's not as we receive, so shall we give. It's not the way the teaching went. So we create this within ourselves. We create it within the surrounding. We seek to see a greater good, and we do see a greater good. The universe responds, it reacts. There's an energy, there's a flow of energy that's within each and every one of us, and this is what Holmes is talking about. He says it's wonderful to realize that we can sit in the quiet of our own being and consciously direct a power greater than we are for a definite purpose of helping ourselves and other people, someone else. This power should be used for both purposes, for we have to get back to this simple proposition. We must use the power to help ourselves first in order that we may establish a realization of our ability to use it to help others. And this is what New Thought, religious science and spirit, or science of mind is all about, is creating a better life for ourselves that we can create a better life for others. And this idea, think about it. You know, the concept of a chain reaction is to get the atom to split. In that splitting, it releases energy. Now, in and of itself, that's not much. But the energy that is released in the splitting of the one atom bombards surrounding atoms, and then it splits those, and more energy is created. And we all know the effects of an atomic bomb, but we also know the effects of atomic energy that brings power to homes and is utilized to create a better world environment. We know within ourselves that there's a power there, the power of the divine principle. And as we go to it with the idea of utilizing the gift that God gave us to create more good in our life, seeing that good made manifest through demonstration, and seeking to see that in the surrounding and beyond the surrounding, we create that wave of energy of a greater good. This is the chain reaction that Holmes is talking about. All right, get one more in before we go to our next break. He says, if you would bring happiness to those around you, you must first become happy yourself. But before you can become happy, something has to happen to you that causes you to know that God is right where you are, that good is the final power in the universe, and that love is an all-conquering force. You have to have confidence and self-assurance, and this kind of confidence and self-assurance comes only through having proved to yourself completely that there's a power greater than you are, and that it is a power for good. As we take time daily to affirm, to meditate, to do our prayer treatment, to do our spiritual studies, as we take time to bring ourselves into a greater recognition within ourselves of the greater good that exists within us, that is expressing through us, we begin to see in demonstration and manifestation in our life this greater good unfold. One of the things that Holmes repeatedly throughout his writings tells us is that it's important that we spend time in practice every day. Now, he's not talking about just sitting and doing something, just like a musician or musical practice. He's talking about spiritual practices. Practices like meditation, practice like affirmative prayer, practice like using affirmations, practice like knowing that within ourselves is the point and place where we find the foundation for that which we call our own happiness, and going there and opening up within ourselves to that greater good. We're going to take our next break. I'll see you when we come back.
This 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in Clovis is now for sale. Nestled on a cul-de-sac in a planned unit development, the quiet neighborhood is near Sierra Vista Mall, grocery stores, and Clovis Unified Schools. This well-maintained home, featuring an open kitchen with a breakfast bar, dining area, a family room with fireplace, ceiling fans, vaulted ceilings, and inside laundry room. The large master suite has 2 large closets, a roomy bathroom with shower, and exterior door leading to the patio. Located near the intersection of Gettysburg and Fowler Avenue, call Mike Briggs Properties at 559-486-6758 to buy this home today.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
I'm Greg Steen, your host for the Truth for Seniors show. Glad you're joining us today and coming to you from Central Valley Talk in the heart of Fresno. So every Wednesday at 2 you can find us, and we'll be here giving you the most up-to-date and accurate information possible, bringing you experts, as we've promised, from lots of different fields related to seniors, senior needs, caregiver needs, and everything that goes with that. So if you're looking for the right information and timely information, this is the place to be.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. And we're talking about creating our own spiritual chain reaction and creating a better world. Now, I'm moving kind of quickly because I want to try to get through all this today in this show. If you happen to have your own copy of Living the Science of Mind, you'll find the paper. It starts on page 239. We're going to move forward now. He says, Jesus took the ideas of faith and prayer out of the realm of speculation and theory and put them into the realm of fact and experience. He made his religion and his spiritual conviction come alive and move through him into action. And this is what we're talking about. In this way, we each can involve ourselves in our own daily life experience. We can do this. He says, through him, he healed the sick. It raised the dead, multiplied the loaves, fishes, turned water into wine, stilled the wind and the wave, and above everything else, he brought into it a consciousness of peace, security to those to whom it touched. Peace and security. Imagine a world where we all woke up in the morning with a sense of peace and security. Forget everything else. Forget personal beliefs. Forget what's going on in other parts of the world. If everybody in the world just woke up with a sense of peace and security, how do you think the world would be at that point? You know, rumor has it that the world creates enough good to support everybody in a rather abundant way of living. It's a distribution problem, I've been told. If everybody were to awaken tomorrow morning with a sense of peace and security, how many barriers could come down? How many walls could be eliminated? How much good could be expressed across the world? But it's not about someone going out and telling the world how it has to change. It's creating that peace and security within ourselves. So he says, it is this proof that we need and must have. And fortunately for us, fortunately for us, we have this proof in an ever-increasing volume. We can pray effectively if we decide to. We can build up a faith within ourselves if we have the will. We can learn to live with a sense of confidence and security if we will just get over our fears. And we can prove that love is the greatest healing power in the world. Pretty awesome. Love is the greatest healing power in the world. How would you like to get up in the morning with a sense of peace and security and experience love as your life experience? Think about it. I mean, I almost have trouble talking when I think about it. He says, the laboratory in which we do our work is our own mind. And this is important. He says, the instruments are our own thoughts, and the methods are affirmative prayer and meditation. Meditation draws us close to the divine reality so that we sense its atmosphere and feel its presence. When we think about peace, we become peaceful. He says we need signs. It is scientific when we do something and we see a result and then we can reproduce it. We need those signs. But those signs don't come from anywhere else but ourselves. We have to get on board with it. Regardless of what our personal spiritual philosophy is, to spend time daily meditating on peace, affirming in your prayer a peaceful life experience, however you choose to do that. But for each and every one of us, if we were to do that, we would begin to create that peaceful energy aura around ourselves, and we affect those around us. Like that atom when it splits and the energy affects the atoms that are around it. Peaceful people create peaceful experiences. And that's what we talked about at the beginning of this. He says, we should use this power in everything we do. The power that holds a grain of sand in place is the same power that holds the planets in their places. There is nothing big or little or hard or easy as the power is concerned. It is the same power working in and upon everything. And I'm really kind of skipping through this in order to cover it all. But if you don't have a New Thought background or understanding, you can find online resources. Just Google New Thought. Science of Mind, Religious Science, Centers for Spiritual Living. There's so much out there. You can send me an email. My email address comes up at some point in the show. But, there is so much out there. But you have to do the work. You have to make the choice, and you have to decide. It's nice to have someone else do things for you. But on this part of our spiritual life journey, we're the only ones that can do it. We have to make the choice, we have to make the decision, and we have to be the responsible party. If we have a feeling of entitlement, we're probably going to fall short. This is not a part of our life experience where entitlement's really going to come into play. We can create a better life for ourselves. In a sense, you could say we are entitled to create a better life for ourselves. We're entitled to the life potential that God's given us, but we have to do the work. Ernest Holmes used to say we treat and move our feet. And that is so true. He says, if you want to start this chain reaction that will help those around you, realizing that it must begin at the center of your own being. That's where it starts. Suppose you take time daily to say, and he's got this affirmation here I'm going to read to you, and very simply and sincerely, and perhaps repeat the process a number of times a day. As I read this and you listen to it, you can choose to write it down. If you happen to have a copy of Living the Science of Mind, you can go and you can get it out of there. You can take, as you listen to it, if maybe the words seem dated, they don't seem like, they're comfortable for you, rewrite it in your own words. Put it in a vernacular, if you will, that you're comfortable with, okay, because you're the one that you're writing this for. But he says, I know that nothing but good I know that nothing but good can go from me, and nothing but good can return. Nothing but good can go from me, and nothing but good can return. It is my inward desire that everything I touch, every person I think of, shall be blessed and helped. It is my affirmative prayer, which I completely accept, that even as I pass people in the street, some silent influence of good shall reach from me to them. Taking that energy, splitting that inner atom, if you will, of spirituality within yourself open, and expressing it out so that it will touch other people. Seeking to see good in all around you can be tough. When we get to a point in our lives where we're so caught up with what life has brought to us, and we're really tired of it, and somebody comes along and says, how would you like to live a better life experience? And you say, great, what can you do for me? Where can I go? How can I buy it? And they say simply, you just have to sit down and realize the truth of who you are. Well, what does that mean? What that means is that as a spiritual being in this physical expression, we have assets, if you will. We have resources that we can turn to, but not a single one of them are outside of ourselves. But once we begin to turn to them, once we begin to put this into practice, once we begin to see a demonstration in our life, it's kind of like a snowball, and it grows and it grows, and it affects not only ourselves and our life experience, but those around us. And that's this whole concept. So Holmes goes on, he says, if we make a practice of this, we shall find something new and wonderful beginning to happen. Think about it. In your life, today, you start, and soon you begin to see wonderful things beginning to happen. When you do, recognize them as a demonstration of that truth. He says, for we shall be silently broadcasting our own conviction and silently starting a chain reaction which must finally accomplish its purpose, because it is dealing with a law of good. We must be careful to avoid thinking that we are unimportant in a scheme of things. I'm only one person. What can I do to change the world? How oftentimes we think about that. I'm only one person in the family. How can I create harmony in the family? I'm only one person at my place of business. I'm only half of a relationship. All of these things. It's not about other people. It's about going within ourselves and beginning there. The power is there. The power is within us. He says, we must be careful to avoid thinking we are unimportant in the scheme of things, and we have to know that we are the most important person living as far as we are concerned. That's true, right? You know, as far as you are concerned, you are the most important person in your life. Do you act that way? Do you treat yourself in that manner? Or do you just go through your day accepting whatever life brings to you in the day? He says, this is not egotism. It's not conceit. It is a simple statement of the conviction that each one of us is rooted in the living Spirit. Each one of us is rooted in the connectedness that we have with the divine. There is but one. You know, oftentimes when we start our affirmative prayer, we recognize the infinite oneness of God or Spirit. And God being infinite and the one, the creative force, that which is only all that is, cannot be limited. As we recognize the truth of that, it follows that we also recognize the truth of our connectedness to it. That it is expressing as us, not with us, not associated with us, it's expressing as us, this physical presentation. And it's expressing through us. And we have been gifted with the power of choice, decision-making, that we may uncover, unfold, recognize our truth, and then begin to express it, and to express it at ever greater and greater degrees. That is our gift back to God. That's what we are here to do. So he says, we have access to the mind of God and love and the power and the peace of spirit. It is a simple conviction that no matter how humble our walk in life may appear to be, it must of necessity influence our own environment. You know, you cannot walk through a room and not affect that room. Now you say, well, I just walked through the room. There's a whole lot of things that take place as you walk through the room. And that may be something for another day, but just think about it. You cannot walk through a room and not have an effect on what that room is and how it will be after you pass through it. He says, placing our entire trust, our complete faith, our whole conviction in this simple thought, we should walk in confidence and speak our spiritual convictions with a complete assurance, knowing that there is a presence and a power with us and for us, and operating through us, a presence and a power that knows no defeat, no limitation, nothing. That we are, and that as we recognize we often say our I amness. We are so incredible as individuals, and we so shortchange ourselves in so many ways. We think that our story, our environment, where we're at, where we're from, what we've been exposed to, all these things we allow to hold us back, to limit us. And we've talked about that in the past. There's nothing in life that limits us if we free our mind. It's one of the great lessons that Viktor Frankl learned and many others. Solzhenitsyn, in his stories about what came out of the Gulag, there's nothing that can limit us when we are free in our mind. That's an awesome thought. We're going to take our last break and we'll come back. I'll see you then. Contact David Sprinkle at Century 21 Denton Realty to buy this beautiful home in Yosemite Lakes Park. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and over 2,900 square feet. Dave can help you with your real estate needs in Fresno, Madera, and Mariposa counties and surrounding areas. When you need a realtor, call Dave Sprinkle at 559-285-9785.
Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at condiopress.com and as ebooks at amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at godsinspirationsblog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today. Protect yourself by letting private investigator Michael Morgan Clark get the facts you need in matters of infidelity and divorce, corporate investigations, criminal defense, workers' comp, child parental abduction, wrongfully accused. Michael Morgan Clark will investigate anyone. Call 559-785-1900 or visit clarkinvestigations.com.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center in Fresno, California. I hope you enjoyed it. It was rather rushed, but we got through that. I want to finish up this last segment. Ernest Holmes, after he made his transition, there was a publication of a lot of his unpublished papers, and they were originally published in 3 volumes. I think now it's all included in one volume. It's the Holmes Papers, I think is what it's entitled. But anyway, if you happen to have the earlier 3-volume set, this is the volume 3, The Ideas of Power. And in this section here where he says how to make yourself happy, how to make yourself and others happy, I just want to read you this little paragraph here as we go into our final segment. Ernest Holmes says there is a law of cause and effect that beats us up when we beat up life, and will beat the living stuffing out of us until we're tired of it and have had enough and act in accord with the laws of harmony, which are fundamental to the nature of God and the universe in which you and I live. In other words, as long as we're out looking for something to do battle with, life's going to give us battle. He goes on to say, that's why Jesus said, they that take the sword shall perish by the sword. Give, and it shall be given unto you. And Emerson said, if the red slayer think he slays, or if the slain thinks he is slain, they know not well the subtle ways. I keep and pass, and turn again. That is, the law always moves in a circle. What we oftentimes get so caught up with in our life, whether we're seeking to create more abundance or more peace or more health or greater or better relationships, we get caught up with we have to go out in the world, whatever that may be in any particular moment. But we have to go out in the world and conquer the dragons that we see in our life. And it's not that there's not dragons. That's not my point. We all see the dragons in our life, if you will. But think, Gandhi created freedom without lifting the sword. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. created a consciousness of equality without going out and beating down doors. And yet doors were beaten down, and freedom came, and equality came. These are ideas that are rooted in the infiniteness of a goodness that we can only source in that which we call God. We were created to express in this life. In that expression, we are challenged. The first noble truth of the Buddha was all life is suffering. And the second noble truth is we suffer because we are connected to the physical. And he goes on to provide a way of moving beyond the suffering. I look at that and I like to kind of rephrase that. And I like to say, all life is a challenge. Challenge is not a bad thing. We can suffer, but our suffering is in our mind. If we seek to meet each and every challenge with the knowledge that there is a greater good, that we have a greater God than anything that can come our way, there is no challenge that cannot be transcended. But that's not something that the outside is going to provide for us. That kind of mindset, as we take into our day-to-day life experience, is something that we constantly need to renew within ourselves. This is where daily meditation, daily spiritual practice come, because life does come at us at the speed of life. There are things that catch us off guard. We do get triggered. We do get caught unaware. But there's nothing that life brings at us that is not something that we can't transcend in some way. No matter what you may have experienced in your life up to this point, the fears that you've had, the things that you thought you'd never get through, you've managed to get through them, or you're getting through them, okay? You may not have had faith, confidence, and belief in yourself at the time, but here you are on the other side. How did that happen? Well, somebody did this, that, and the. It's not about that, because it's not about somebody else, it's about you. The you in your life, the I am in my life. I am an expression of the divine principle is me. I have that connectedness within myself. When I quiet my mind, when I affirm my good, when I claim my birthright, okay, and I reaffirm it daily. When I get up in the morning and I claim this day is a great day. Yes, life's going to come at us at the speed of life. Yes, we're going to have challenges, but there's no challenge that is not transcendable, if you will. I'm not sure if that's a word, but there's no challenge that you can have that's bigger than the God that is. And that's the bottom line. We have a bigger God, and that bigger God exists within each and every one of us. We look out into the world and we might see chaos. We look out in the world, we might see struggle. And our hearts can go out to the chaos, and our hearts can go out to the struggle. And I'm not saying we turn our backs on them. But what I am saying is we start within ourselves to create the good that we want to see in the world. Can you go out in the world and create war if you first create peace within yourself? It's a question I ask people. You want peace in the world, it has to start within you. You know, oftentimes the chaos we see in the world is nothing more than a demonstration of the chaos that exists within the people that are out creating the chaos in the world. And it's not that they may not want better things, but they get confused in how to create a better world because their understanding of the world as a physical place of which they are a separate part means that only through chaos can they seek to create calmness. And it doesn't work that way. Order does come out of chaos. That is a law of physics. I get that. But the order that comes out of chaos has to first come within ourselves. That's where we create the order within ourselves, recognizing the truth. So we take time every day. If you're new to New Thought, science of mind and spirit, religious science, like I said in the last segment, you can go online. There are a lot of resources out there. You can buy books off Amazon. Of course, I highly recommend The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, and follow that up by Living the Science of Mind, which is a commentary on the science of mind that Dr. Holmes put together. You can find many organizations out there. This show airs on the New Thought channel. You can look up the New Thought channel, Google it. You'll find not only this show, but you'll find a lot of shows by really outstanding people within the New Thought field that can share wisdom and teachings with you to help you grow in your own spiritual journey. There's other organizations, like I say. The Internet's a great place, and it provides a lot of stuff that we can use. But you know what? Just like everything else, if you don't type in, if you don't do the Googling, it's probably not going to show up on your computer screen. And that's the way life expresses for us. We have to do it. We have to take responsibility. We have to spend the time. We have to do the meditation. Boy, that can be tough if you're not used to it, right? You want me to spend time just sitting there doing nothing? Well, listen, you don't have to start taking the whole thing in one big bite, as I say. Take a specific time, a little bit of time. Start with 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but do it at the same time every day. Make a commitment to do it. Don't have to do anything else. But find a spot, same time every day, sit quietly. And if you can do that for a couple days, maybe sit quietly and close your eyes. If you find you can do that for a couple of days, maybe sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing and nothing else. And you just move along. Same time every day. Start with a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You'll find that as you get and develop a skill at doing this, spending more time doing this is not the tedium that you might think it is going into it. But if you don't take the time in the beginning to do it, it's, we try to, oftentimes we want the gold ring without getting on the merry-go-round, so to speak. But we got to do this, and we each have to do this. I appreciate you taking time to watch the show. I hope you catch some of our other shows. Like I say, we have an archive now on the New Thought channel. I have my webpage, Steve Walling, and you can always go there. And you can message me. I respond to messages. You can email me. I do treatment for people, should you have a desire or a need for treatment. And I'm happy to refer you to other resources, happy to share with you, from my knowledge base. And, I guess what I'm trying to say is that part of my creating my spiritual chain reaction, if you will, is reaching out to you and helping you to create your own. I don't think anybody wants to live in a world of chaos when we can create a world of peace. But we can't create a world of peace by insisting that the world be peaceful. We can't create good by insisting that other people be good when we're still dealing with our stuff. We can't create in our own life when we still allow our story to own us. So we've talked about these things, and we'll talk about more of them. The idea of creating your own spiritual chain reaction, if you get that, that's awesome. It's done unto us as we believe. It's done unto us as we believe. That's a truth that hasn't changed. If you're not experiencing life at the level that you want, if you're not having the abundance in your life that you'd like to have, if you're dealing with some challenge in your life that you'd rather not, it's done unto us as we believe. And regardless of what you may say that you believe, what we believe in our subconscious mind oftentimes is not exactly what we say we believe with our conscious mind, because life will always mirror back to us that which we believe. So if we're living in a life of chaos, it's because we are centered in chaos. When we begin to choose to live a life of peace, we'll see peace expressed in our life. I'm going to leave it with that for today. Think about Darshan. Think about peace. Think about creating a chain reaction of good in your life. That's awesome. Think about the fact that today really is a great day, and it's all yours, right here, right now, and so it is. So I'll see you next week, my friends. Know that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you. The presence of God, you betcha, watches over you, because no matter where you're at, God is there. Don't you ever doubt it. And thus, all is well. Blessings, and I'll see you when we come back.
CentralValleyTalk.com